The Roof World, the final world in the game, but obviously not my final list in this series, seeing that I've still got to cover the upgrade plants as well as Imitator. I thought the roof concept was very interesting. The invasions in the front garden didn't work, even in night time, and they didn't work in the back garden, so why not invade the roof and break in through the chimney? I also like the slimes gimmick, and even as a Plants vs Zombies 2 player, I thought it was a much more interesting use of lob-shot plants than the ability to hurl projectiles over graves and other obstacles. Of course, it has the most annoying types of zombies, being the last world in the game, and if you're playing Adventure 2, you might be annoyed at Crazy Dave's poor plant choices. No, Dave, I do not want to use a freaking cactus on the roof. But overall, I think it's a big step up from the previous world. I'm GMVS, and here's my opinion on all of the roof plants ranked from worst to best. Also know that a lot of these are utility and gimmicky plants, so ranking is a bit harder than in previous lists. Bottom spot goes to the garlic. You probably already know that I'm not a big fan of this guy. I never have been. I really don't see the appeal in consuming a seed slot just to make a zombie change lane. You can stack more zombies for an instant kill, but with the crowd controlling abilities of Cherry Bomb and Jalapeno, I don't really think that's a necessity. The main use for garlic is to protect plants behind him and use them as a faux defensive plant that diverts zombies away from the guarded plant, but I think that anything he can do, Pumpkin can do better. He may cost more, but Pumpkin is tougher and using him on top of a plant means he's taking up less space on the lawn. And unfortunately, he can't be used as an easy way to kill zombies adjacent to the water lane, as the zombies will always go in the safe lane. 7 is the Marigold. Yeah, you see what I mean when I say that the plants in this world are hard to rank? This girl just sits at the back producing coins. Yes, she's useful for coin farming, but it's not like this is the only way you can earn coins. Zen Garden is a thing that exists, as well as Slot Machine if luck is on your side, since the coin output isn't that good from the original Heal Flower. I will admit I actually use the Marigold more than quite a few of the plants above her on this list, but that's mostly due to the high amount of seed slots on this game, so the fact I essentially use her as a stocking filler speaks measures about how questionable her existence as a regular lawn plant is. Not to mention that using it in her home world isn't that effective, as most of the time you need to spend 25 extra sun to plant a pot. 6th spot I've given to the Kernel-Pult. Now, if this was PvZ2, I would have put him a spot higher, but his battle stun duration is so short in this game it almost feels pointless. Therefore, he's not a very good plant to use on his own. While I do tend to use both Cabbage and Kernel-Pults in roof levels, you'll probably get a greater damage output by just using 2 layers of Cabbage-Pults. On the other hand, the battle stun can still help you out on the fight, and I find them very useful in the Zomboss battle, as the guy can be a lifesaver there, and while you do get ice shrooms, their stun duration is even shorter, so Pulse will get the job done better, as long as you ain't too unlucky. I've previously complained that the game has no good instant use stun plants, so therefore Kernel is your best bet, but at the end of the day, his stun duration is so irritatingly short it puts him at the bottom 3 on this list. 5 is the Umbrella Leaf. Yes, you're probably surprised that I didn't put this chap lower given that I included him in my worst plants list, but that was mainly because of his limited use. However, he's such a good counter to Bungee and Cabbage-Pult zombies that makes me regret my previous placement of him. He's kind of like the Plantain of Roof. While you can get by without him, I find the level so much easier and less stressful when using him. My general setup is to use him in the 2nd and 4th lanes in the 2nd leftmost column, and then place sunflowers around them, so the leaves can defend a 3x3 area. Since Cabbage-Pult zombies target the back lane first, this is very effective. Unfortunately, using him is a bit of a pain if you want to use more sunflowers, due to his awkward setup, but still, you don't want those basketballs clobbering your Melon-Pults. 4th spot goes to the Coffee Bean. Yes, this plant is essentially an optional plant, given there's no time you actually can't complete a level without using him, except maybe column like you see him. But as I mentioned in my fog list, Magnet Shroom is a very useful plant to use in this world due to the amount of magnetic zombies that show up. But of course in the day you need to give him this guy to give him the will to live. Besides Magnet Shroom, there are also a few other mushrooms he's good for, such as Doom, Gloom and Ice. Although keep in mind that he costs 75 sun and therefore isn't ideal for plants like Puff Shroom and Fume Shroom, where one of their main advantages ordinarily is their low sun cost. Due to the nocturnal nature of mushrooms, you can pre-plant the instant use ones, namely Doom and Ice Shrooms, and then save them for later, in which you can activate them with Coffee Bean. Into the top 3, and first up is the Cabbage-Pult, the bread and butter plant of the world. I already mentioned how I think lobbing projectiles over the slant is a better gimmick than over graves in the 2nd game, and I'd say that Cabbage-Pult is undeniably better than Kernel-Pult in this game. Yes, you can use multiple Kernel-Pults to maximise stun chance, But as previously touched upon, doing the same with Cabbage-Pult will result in a greater damage output. Honestly, there's no real reason to leave him out of your arsenal in roof levels, even when you get Melon-Pult, as he still costs 300 sun and therefore will be a nuisance to set up early on in levels. Outside of the roof, especially in day worlds, he's pretty much interchangeable with a standard pea shooter, except that Cabbage can deal with snorkel zombies better but don't work with torchwoods, so I generally would give pea shooter the edge, and he's still usable on the flat part of the roof. But once again, the Cabbage has to be high on the list out of sheer importance. Taking the second spot is the flower pot. No one likes a rhymer. The world exclusive world essential plant on this list is of course high up due to how vital it is. And while you can complete pool levels without lily pad by using multi-lane plants, it's very hard to complete the later roof levels without the flower pot due to setbacks such as planting space, zombies eating the pre-placed pots, zombies destroying the pre-placed pots with basketballs, and not being able to use close range or straight shooting plants on the flat part of the roof. Despite it being the most important plant to use in the world, flower pot doesn't get the top spot. 1, because that would be freaking boring, and 2, because, as with other world exclusive plants in this series, they lose points for being only useful in their home world. But yeah, a solid 2 score for one of the most irritatingly essential plants in the game. And number 1 is the Melon-Pult. Look, it may seem like a cliche to rank the last obtained plant as the best one, but Melon-Pult is like the demolition derby of this game. He also costs 300 sun, which is cheaper than in Plant vs Zombies 2, and isn't too shabby when it's 100 more than the repeater for a much more damaging and controlling plant. Sorry repeater, but you stink. While his damage is a little weaker than on the second game, and his splash isn't as strong, he's still a very reliable plant that is a very effective primary line of defense. Has great crowd control, and can be upgraded into the Wintermelon for chilling power. Also, he's still a lob-shot plant, which means he can kill snorkel zombies, bypass certain shields, and deal with tough zombies on the roof from the back of the lawn. While his sun cost makes him difficult to use in nighttime worlds, the MP strengths greatly outweigh his few weaknesses, and is my top pick for the best plant obtained in this world. That's my list. There's one more of course, and that's for Crazy Dave's Twiddy Dinkies. So stay tuned for that. Check out the previous videos in this series. I'm Asa from GMVS. Bye.